and YouTube and various channels we're streaming out to today. You have stumbled upon Piano Tech Radio Hour, or potentially intentionally are here. If you are here for the first time, we're going to introduce the program momentarily so you get an idea of what to prepare for today. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna learn something. We're gonna be musical. We're gonna be creative. It's gonna be a blast. I'll intro the program, like I said, momentarily, but I'm going to also let our Zoom participants in. Let me make sure to do that. We're just kind of getting settled. Hello, Zoom participants. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your presence here and always look forward to seeing those familiar names return each week. We're going to get started here in a moment. I just did a quick shout out on the live stream on YouTube and Facebook to give people the context. And momentarily here, I'm going to just introduce the program. So this is Piano Tech Radio Hour. We gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. And this includes, I'm going to spotlight myself as well, and see here, spotlight me and spotlight our guest today. Yeah, we talk to the most fascinating folks in and around the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour. It's just $16 a month, and you get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, as well as all the archival recordings of over 200 episodes in our member area. You can join using the link bit.ly/join PTRH. Don't forget about our podcast, which is at pianotechradio.com, our blog on Substack, which you can find searching Piano Technicians Masterclasses. The podcast, popular all over the world in the performing arts category on iTunes. We've reached top 100, top 10, even #1 status in various locales. Very proud of that. And then the blog gives you insights into what is behind the scenes in the Piano Technicians Masterclass platform, those advanced topics that you can't find anywhere else. We might talk about rebuilding, even designing piano, the history of pianos, and more we'll go into other tangential topics, music in general, and the arts in general. Talk about composition, talk about performing. We'll talk about even conducting. So it's a lot of fun. Make sure you join up. We do pretty much every third Thursday of the month, we'll do a master class. Beyond that, the social medias, we've got Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And make sure to sign up for the email list by visiting pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. Just put your name and email, and you'll be ready to go. All right, let's introduce our guest for today, Rebecca Hoff. She is a Bay Area-based pianist, composer, educator, and creative coach whose vibrant work blends jazz, classical, and Brazilian music with a playful sense of curiosity. Her debut album, Florescer, earned praise for its clever, original take on Brazilian-inspired instrumental music, and her 2024 release, Bright Little World, guides listeners to an evocative hero's journey across piano styles. As a coach and host of the Being a Whole Person podcast, Rebecca supports musicians with self-compassionate practices that integrate wellness and sustainable creativity. A dedicated collaborator, she has performed with ensembles like the Berkeley Choro ensemble. Choro? I forget what you said.
Got it.
Choro.
Choro. Yeah.
And Diablo Women's Chorale. And her playful compositions have included everything from samba grooves to crime-fighting manatees. Welcome, Rebecca, to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay. Let's talk about crime-fighting manatees. What's that all about?
Maybe I should take that out of my bio. Well, in 2017, I did 200-day projects where I wrote 8 measures a day for 100 days. And it's this global art project that a lot of people participate in, and then they make up their own hashtag for it. So you can, it started on Instagram. I don't know if it's still there. I haven't done it in a while, but basically I did that. And so I made up a set of little composition prompts for myself. And oh, a special guest who has a song about him later, maybe. One of them was like pick an animal and write an ostinato, which is a repeating pattern, if any non-musicians don't know that term, about that animal. And I picked a manatee and I ended up writing this bass line. And I thought it sounded kind of like a 70s like cop show of some kind. So I sort of made up this backstory that it was a crime-fighting manatee. And then it evolved into something that didn't have that in the title and it changed a little bit. But yeah, sense of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, these several projects are great. I mean, I did one many years ago for I think it was about 3 or 4 months, but it was like it felt really impactful on my life. I did a song a day.
Cool.
I would write it and record it and publish it to the internet. And I did that for about 3 months. And
That's amazing.
it was based on the Wikipedia article of the day.
Wow.
Similarly quirky kind of
I love
yeah,
that.
idea.
Yeah.
But it's just generative, and if you don't
Yes.
do anything, then nothing creative happens. So,
Exactly.
and you come up with weird stuff too. So, like
Yeah.
songs about the Wonder Bra. Okay, I have a song about Jupiter. I've got a song about Gremlins 2 the movie and Mars. Or lead to nitrate. It's all
Uh-huh.
just whatever the Wikipedia article today was.
I love that. That's really
uh,
cool. And quantity leads to quality. Like, we just have to make a lot of stuff to get to the good stuff. So it's
yeah,
great.
I think I found that like that's one of the conclusions I came to when it's kind of a funny way. I'll just say it very bluntly the way that I've seen it, which is I probably should reframe it, but I would have an artist that I would like Bob Dylan or Herbie Hancock or Miles Davis or whatever, and think that their music's really great. And then I would find some track and I would be like, this sucks. Not really, but I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit. But
But
I'd be
like
like,
comparatively, sure.
comparatively to what I like. And I
Yeah,
think what's interesting about that is that I'm sharing the opinion very bluntly because as time goes by, there's a few interesting things that I came took from that. Number one, sometimes those things that I didn't necessarily like at first, I grew to like, you know.
true.
So and I always found it interesting too. Different people always like different things. Like,
Hmm.
you could be hanging out with a friend and say, hey, here's my favorite track, and they'll be like, I'm not into it. And then they put something else on that they really like, and you're like, well, I'm not into it.
Yeah,
And so there's no sort of good music and bad music. There's just music, and you just got to keep making it, right?
yeah. Well, and I think that hits on something really important to being the creator. You can kind of obsess a lot about, am I writing something good? Is this good? Am I good enough? All of those like internal standards type things. But it's so much more helpful to just be like, do I like this? Do I like how this sounds? And then like, does the piece, it almost has its own personality or entity that you're like, does it want to be that thing? Maybe you're like, this sounds really good, but this isn't what the piece actually wants to be. And this is an idea for a different spot, you know?
Yeah.
Cat is obsessed with something out the
Cat's
window.
name. Should we introduce the cat? I don't have a bio for the cat.
Oh yeah. Okay, well this is Suki. Um,
Suki.
he's very cute. He's
Nice,
really
Suki.
into something happening out the window behind me right now.
Okay.
And he has a song dedicated to him called Trouble Pause, which is his middle name.
Okay. Maybe Suki wants us to play that track. I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
maybe so. That's the prompt.
Okay. All right. Let's
Let's do it.
check that out. Patas de problemas,
Yes,
which is that it's probably the same in Spanish, basically, but is that meant that's
probably.
Brazilian?
It's intended to be Portuguese, yeah, because
Portuguese, sorry.
it's sort of a Brazilian Choro-esque piece. It doesn't follow the traditional form of that. And if anyone doesn't know what Brazilian Choro is, it's this style that came about there around the same time as ragtime came about in the United States. And it's kind of that same combination of African rhythms meeting European harmonies. But Choro is very much a living art form, and there are Choro clubs in Rio and Sao Paulo. It is vibrantly still alive, whereas ragtime didn't. It kind of went to other directions in jazz. So, yeah, not long after I got Suki a few years ago, he he was very playful, and that inspired this piece.
All right, let's check out a little bit of it. It was very cool. It
Thank
reminds me of like I mean, it's funny because it came out of the style you're kind of bringing in came around ragtime. That's like 20s, I guess, maybe or something like that.
Even
Ragtime.
before, but yeah, definitely into the 20s. I would say even like the turn of the 20th century.
Yeah. This feels like almost like 60s, 70s vibe a little bit. Like I
Sure,
feel
yeah, yeah.
you can
The
see it.
underlying rhythm stayed the same, but things have changed too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's great. So tell me about so I'll go here because I typically do this. We didn't do it yet. Just go back into your past and tell us how you got into music and piano and all this. How did this all get started? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my parents always had a piano in the house when I was growing up, and I probably played with it at a young age, and my parents showed me, here's how you find C on the piano and those sorts of things. And apparently, my mom asked me in kindergarten, do you want to take piano lessons? And I said no. But in first grade, I said yes. So that's when I started, age 6. Really always enjoyed piano, and it seemed like something that came easily to me, and that, my interest in it kept growing as I got older. And mainly studied classical music, but got into jazz, did the jazz band in middle school and high school. And then I was going to maybe study with a jazz teacher my senior year, and my parents were like, you have to find them and figure this out yourself. And I just didn't. So I actually stopped taking piano lessons my senior year of high school, went to Ithaca College to maybe study photography. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I ended up minoring in music and then just kind of getting obsessed with all my music classes. And it was clear to me that that was supposed to be the path I was actually, supposed to take. So it was good because I started doing all the general classes right away, and it was easy to audition to be a music major after I was already there. And so I did that, and I got a degree in classical piano, but I also took every class that I could that wasn't classical. So I took like jazz arranging, jazz improv, jazz piano, um, like a survey class on Latin American music, got me into Brazilian music, I think, sophomore year of college, and totally changed my world because I got obsessed with it. And that was more than 20 years ago. And I just keep learning and getting deeper and deeper on this. Because, saying Brazilian music is like saying American music. Like, what is that? It's a whole bunch of different things. So even within that, there's samba, there's choro, which you just kind of heard. There is like bayao and forró, which are styles from the Northeast. Like I could go on and on and on. There's so much to learn, and that's definitely still one of my major musical passions.
Yeah. Can you give us some I'm gonna do this after we're done. I'll put a little Brazilian music playlist together. Can you
Oh,
give me
cool. Yeah.
an artist? I'm not doing this for anybody else. That may be proud. This is for me. But but I'm just saying I've been into like my Spotify playlist lately. So yeah, any recommendations, artists, albums,
I mean,
some,
so much. Do you want things with vocals? Do you want things without?
let's
Uh,
get things with vocals first.
you
Yeah.
want upbeat? You want
Here's
chill?
here's what I want. I want a little maybe I'm gonna spend too much time on this, but one or two recommendations in a couple of different styles. So let's say Choro. Do you have
Yeah.
any recommendations for that?
Yeah. Well, Alessandro Panezzi. Check
Okay.
out, he's a guitarist. He's extremely prolific. He teaches at the California Brazil camp that I've gone to many times, which is a couple hours north of me here in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Um, and he has written so many choros. He is one of those people who just like breathes and music comes out. Um, a couple years ago at the camp, he wrote a choro for every single person in his class. And so I have one dedicated to me. And he didn't just write it for everybody. He was like, here's what I know of you as a musician, and I will incorporate that into the music. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
just like look him up. Any of his recordings would be great. So that's like usually solo guitar. He's collaborated with other people too. Um, and then let's see. Well, here's somebody I'm obsessed with right now, Luisa Mitre, or Mitri, I guess is how you pronounce it, Mitre. She's a composer in Belo Horizonte, and she's in this duo. She's a pianist. She's in a duo with her sister, who is a percussionist, often plays like vibes or other percussion. And I am super into her music right now. Her first album, I'm forgetting the name of it, but she doesn't have a lot of things out. You'll find it. I've been learning her music in a band that I'm in lately, and it's been really, really cool.
So those two both Choro, or are those just different Brazilian artists?
I mean, Alessandro Panezzi plays a lot of choro, but maybe some other things. And Luisa Mitri plays a lot of different things. There's samba, there's choro, there's like bayao and other Northeast styles. Yeah, there's a good variety. Although those are both instrumental. Maybe I should give you a vocal one too.
If you got one. If you don't, I was going to ask for
Yeah.
Bayao is something like I feel like I've heard the word,
Yeah.
but I don't know like, oh, that's Bayao or that
Yeah.
artist, that song. Yeah.
So it always has a rhythm under it that's like boom, 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 boom. This like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And Foho is a specific style underneath that. Forro is how you spell it. And that's like, it's like a folk style, really, but it's become more than that. Accordion, zabumba, which is a kind of bass drum, and triangle are the main instruments. But you might hear like flutes or fiddles or other stuff getting in there too. So like piano isn't included in that, but you can definitely adapt anything for piano, and I do because I want to play it, you know?
Mhm. Any track or artist that comes to mind? I'm putting you on the spot here, so if you don't.
Yeah. Well, if I'm thinking classic, Luis Gonzaga
Okay.
is, I don't know if everyone agrees that he invented the style, but he'd be one of the people. Like maybe
Okay.
people argue about it, but yeah, yeah,
Okay.
he is
All right.
a good place to get to the roots.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love this. There's so much out there in terms of musical genres and styles
yeah.
and little subcultures. And I can't say I'm the biggest fan of Spotify as a company, and I didn't use it for a long time.
Yeah.
But I have it's sort of built into my car, and so like I do
Mm.
it. And the one thing that I have appreciated is just being able to explore, oh, this is like that, and check this
Yeah, yeah,
different playlists and different, genres and things. Yeah.
yeah. I switched to Tidal a few years ago and I like it. It feels the same as Spotify to use and it is better ethically. And I don't like it maybe doesn't have quite as much stuff on it, but I'm happy with it in case you
Okay.
want to venture away from Spotify. I just read the book about Spotify and all of its terrible business practices. So
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
feeling a
Yeah.
little sour on that right now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny not to sidetrack our conversation too far, but I just got into this group called Wolfpack. They're relatively
I
popular.
love them.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
And one of the tracks I have a Back Pocket, that's like one of their most popular
Yes.
tracks. I
Yep.
listen to it like all the time.
Yeah.
And I discovered, not discovered, I feel like I'd heard of them, but I got into them through Spotify and have been making these
Hmm.
lists. But then I looked up the main guy, and he literally had some interview on, like one of these news shows, CNBC or something, about Spotify was going public, and he was just bashing them. He was like, we get like you know 40 hundredths of a penny, for every play, and it's ridiculous. So he was talking, he was very disappointed, I suppose. I found that ironic, given that I was exploring his music through
I
Spotify.
know. I
It's
know.
also a complicated world. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
anyways,
I
um,
could say a lot about that, but yeah, we don't have to dwell on the Spotify
you have
topic.
other things to say, go for it. Share.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I was also just going to share that if you have under a thousand streams in a year on a
Mhm.
certain track, you get nothing. They have changed the rules, so you don't get anything unless and it's a rolling period, so it's a year from today, no matter when it is. So, yeah, I just really haven't found it worth it to try and get income via Spotify because those fractions of a penny take forever. It's so much effort. I want to be available. I want my music to be available to people online. But honestly, after reading that book about they have all these fake artists that they created.
Mhm.
Like basically they hired people to sit in a studio and make all these tracks and never get and pay them a one-time fee and they never get credit for it. And then they make all these fake artists that they don't have to pay anymore because the people already made the stuff. So
Just
like a big part of their ecosystem is just like fake. And now
yeah,
that's even before AI too. So like I just don't feel good about being a part of that, and I might even take my music down from there. I'm still thinking about it.
yeah, yeah. I didn't use it for the longest time. Also, they're also getting heavy into podcasting, which
Yes.
I really appreciate the sort of independent nature and decentralized nature of the podcasting ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like nobody owns podcasting, like
Yeah.
podcasts on YouTube or Spotify or all these different
Right.
places, but places like YouTube and Spotify are trying to own
They
podcasting.
are, yeah. To make deals with certain artists. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, which I don't think is necessarily, I don't think it's good for what I like about podcasting, again, is that it's independent, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you put stuff up on YouTube, you have some leeway with what you can do, but you have to adhere by the platforms,
Hmm.
rules and
Right.
regulations. They're just going to steer things in what way works best for them.
And they're
But
advertisers.
yeah, but podcasting, anybody out there say whatever you want, and there it goes.
Right.
You can find it. I
Yeah,
like that.
I do too.
Um, okay, let's talk a little bit more about your kind of coaching in that domain. So when did this first become something that you latched onto, that this sort of meta topic around music and being a musician?
Yeah, well, I had realized, I guess I should go back even further than I'm thinking. Yeah, so over time, I have gone through a few different periods of being struggling with anxiety and burnout. And I started to question how I was doing things, how much I was working, how busy I was, how busy I thought I was expected to be, because there were a lot of standards that I was putting on myself that maybe even weren't necessary. And I started just thinking about wellness a lot and how to be healthy and how to be healthy as a musician, not necessarily just in the terms of physical health, but in terms of mental health and how we behave and all that kind of stuff. So I had started blogging about this stuff in probably like 2016 or so. And I realized that I was talking about these topics with fellow musicians a lot. It was just like coming up again and again. And it was something I found myself really focused on. And then I was like, I should actually like formalize this into something that I can offer to people because I'm constantly like helping people with this informally. I might as well, start doing it in a more formalized way. So in 2018, I started creative coaching. and offering that mostly online. I think I've done it in person a little bit, but it's really nice to do online because anyone, anywhere can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you typically approach it when somebody's working with you? Is it all just tailored to the person? Do you have like a protocol you like to take them through?
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of both. It's definitely tailored to the person because that's kind of the beauty of one-on-one work. You can do exactly what that person needs and see how things unfold. But I definitely see some themes. And so I kind of have, I wouldn't say it's a protocol, it's not that rigid, but there are some things that I always end up doing with people. And there are kind of two different buckets of ways I can categorize it. Some people come to me because they're like, I'm super burned out. I don't enjoy music or art anymore. I don't remember why I like this. Like, can you help me find that again? And we talk about, how that came about and how they're feeling about it and maybe work through creative blocks and things through talking. But we also get into like, what is your life like? What is your schedule like? What things give you energy? What things are depleting your energy? Like, what are the nuts and bolts of how you're actually living your life, and how might you be able to make some little changes to feel like you have more energy or to literally make time for the thing that you don't think you have time for? You can kind of look at it differently and maybe find some pockets or some things that maybe you can stop doing and do this other thing. So there's kind of that side of things as well as the like, I don't remember how to enjoy my creativity. I'm feeling blocked because of X, Y, and Z.
And do you find a theme as to, I mean, maybe you kind of alluded to it, but um, what is the block there? One thing that's coming up for me is like maybe allowing yourself more flexibility with it, right? Like, oh, like I let myself just noodle instead of I have to practice a piece and it's got to be
Yeah.
performed or something, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. That you're spot on. I see a lot of perfectionists, and I consider myself a recovering perfectionist. So, I love when people come to me feeling that way because I'm like, I understand. And like maybe we can just loosen our grip on that just a little bit. And I think also you just said something about just noodling, which means play. Like we use the word play our instrument, play the piano, whatever, but we don't feel like we're playing sometimes. Like it becomes rigid. It becomes, I need to practice for this one gig. I need to sound really good. I need to not make mistakes, all that kind of stuff. So really getting back to that sense of play and feeling like you're allowed to play. That comes up a lot. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Where do you think it comes from? Do you think it comes from a story's come to my mind right now, and it was I had a roommate back uh a while back when I was in New York City. She was going to an art school there in Brooklyn. And Pratt is a pretty well-known
Yeah.
art school.
Yeah.
And I believe she was doing a graduate program, and they had to do these things where I don't know, I think they call it a crit, like a
Yeah.
critical criticism, whatever.
A
And
critique. Yeah.
yeah, and they show their thing to the professors, and the professors talk about it. And it's a little, I mean, it always feels like a little game where they say the meanest things they can. You know,
Sometimes it does feel like that. Yeah.
and you as an artist kind of have to um like I guess just deal with it, right? It's like I don't know that from my perspective of hearing about this, there was no clear answer. Like one of your answers could be to like defend vociferously what you're
Yeah.
doing and just like really sell it hard, despite the criticism. But the
Hmm.
side of it could be like, oh, that's a useful suggestion. You could take it humbly, right? But it's very, you know, I've noticed this in academia. There's this theme of like the whoever's the authority figure is just going to beat up on you, and that's going to be good for you. So, anyways, where do you think that's part of where this comes from, or where does it come from that people get so just like, you know, almost like scarred or PTSD from something like music or
Yeah.
performance.
I think it depends a lot on people's personal experiences, but actually, it's funny that you said that. I mentioned earlier that I thought I might study photography. I was really interested in that, and I just, for whatever reason, thought I couldn't cut it as a musician. I was like, maybe I'll do something else. But the first photography class I took, the critique days, my stuff just got ripped apart, and I was like, I hate this. This is not fun. It's heavily informed by the taste of the professor and their opinions. It's filtered through what they're thinking. It's not that their opinion is the be all end all of what is good and bad. But I was just like, wow, that killed all the joy I had for photography. I don't think this is what I want to do. But then in my music classes, where we'd have like a studio class and give comments on each other's work, that made me want to be better. And that made me want to explore more. So that was super clarifying for me in knowing what I wanted to do next. That doesn't really answer your question, but I just want to share that too.
Yeah.
I think we teach the way we're taught sometimes, unless we aim to do something different. And if that teacher came from a really critical teacher as well, they're probably going to pass that down. I think a lot of it comes from fear. Like deep down, we just want someone to think we're okay, right? And to be loved and accepted and to like be successful with whatever we want to do. So, you know, being really critical might feel like some kind of protection against whatever is going to come your way. If I rip it apart, like then I'm ready for any bad thing that might come my way. Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly like that style. You probably can understand that from the things you read in my bio and, sense of how I'm coming across. But I really think that treating students that way can kill their joy for it. And it's not that that's the only thing that you need. Like, yes, you do need to build up tangible skills in your field, and that might involve criticism. And like, we have to be able to take criticism and use it to make ourselves better. But just the like ripping it apart and being cruel, I really don't think there's a reason for that. Like, I watched the movie Whiplash, it made me think of that. I just
I'm
watched it recently, even though it's like 10 years old. And I just really hate the idea that you have to be yelled at and kind of abused even to be able to learn something.
Yes. What's Whiplash about? I forget.
Oh, it's about a jazz drummer and like a
Oh,
really harsh teacher.
gotta see that.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
that's the thing.
it's
Yeah,
not like a fun movie, but it's definitely interesting.
real. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, number one, I feel like uh, what's funny about some of these personalities that have their critical tone is I often find, well, I've kind of got a critique of your approach here, dude. Because oftentimes, I mean, the worst case scenario, the best case scenario is somebody says, um, you know, I think that that intro could be a little more spirited. What if you tried that,
Yeah.
right? Like having a suggestion versus that intro sucks. Fix it, which is I think what for some reason it's just the easiest path for some sort of authority figure to take. They don't have
Mhm.
to think very much. They
No. Yeah.
just go, oh, criticism equals that's my job. Say something mean and move on, and they'll figure out the details. Yeah,
Right.
I have criticisms of that seems kind of lazy to me, you
It's
know?
not really teaching. Yeah. And the second way, that way, has no curiosity. You asked a question the first time, what if you did this? Like, I think curiosity is center to everything we do in creativity and always should be. And just the straight up criticism, that shuts it down. That doesn't leave any room for possibility and becoming something else and evolving. So I think it's really important that we treat others and ourselves in a way that lets us stay curious about how we might be able to grow.
Yeah, another example I think of too is there's a lot of people who are very successful. And especially when you talk about social media or something,
Hmm.
a very successful YouTuber or podcaster or whatever, they go, I don't read the comments. Like they don't pay attention, right? So the idea would be, oh, somehow you could make some utility out of this kind of negative feedback,
Mhm.
where some of these people that are very talented, they just go, I don't even bother. I don't even listen.
Yeah. Well, I think filtering feedback, if you're that famous and you're getting that much feedback, like we can't take in that much information. And whose feedback do you actually value and trust? It's probably not that random guy who wrote you a comment in all caps, you know? So, yeah, I respect that. I think it would be hard not to want to know what was going on, what people are saying about you, but I can see it both ways.
How do you think about maintaining standards? That's something that I've actually been working on in various parts of my personal and professional life. So, it's like it's like you go to the restaurant. Oh, what was this? This actually happened recently. I went to the restaurant. A little quick story here. I don't know if this will apply, but
It
this is
probably
how
does.
it sort of makes sense. I went to the restaurant. I ordered a hamburger. The woman said, "Oh, is that all you need?" And I said, "Well, I know when you guys bring it, you usually bring like just one little dish of ketchup, one little dish of the little jardiniere sauce that comes with it. I'll be happy if you could just bring me a few of each of those." And we had that conversation, and she listened to me say that. She asked me about like how I wanted it. Is there anything else? Da da da. I said that, and then sure enough, she personally comes back, brings the dish, and there's one cup of and there's one cup of ketchup. And I thought to myself, I didn't say anything. I just asked for more at a later point. But I thought to myself, there's a part as like a consumer of some good or something like that, where it's bad for someone if you don't say, hey, listen, like why bother asking somebody what they want if you're not going to follow through? Like this service could be better, and it's not going to be good for the restaurant if you continue to just kind of be absent-minded about it. Forget these things, right? Um, yeah, so that's like I think about like standards, right? Because it's like, sometimes you just don't want to say something. You want to to yourself even, right?
Hmm.
So how do you think about that? I don't know how
Yeah.
much into what you talked about, but yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, that's an interesting, well, your example is interesting because the job of a restaurant is to give good customer service. And is our job as artists to give customer service? That's a question. Like maybe that's like a whole other hour program we could talk about
Yeah.
just like what is our duty to serve our fans or however you want to word it. Um, but just getting back to your actual question, like how do we make our own standards? We have to make our own standards. And we probably do get a lot of feedback from outside about what those should be, either from like people we've learned from, perhaps those teachers who have yelled at us in the past, their voices are still hanging out in there and saying, like, oh, you shouldn't play like that because that's bad, you know? So I think it's a long process. I think we start to make our standards based on other people when we don't know very much because we're learning and, copying other things. And that's a way that we learn. But then we start to learn what do we like? We start to hopefully ask ourselves more often, what are my standards? What do I believe in? Like it might not be standards like I think that good piano playing sounds like this. It might be like the guiding principle behind my work is that I want to be able to share it with people in this way. And, that's like why I do this kind of thing. So, yeah, this is a really good question.
I'm
I'm
having
going to have more answers that come up after the show.
yeah,
My
sure.
brain's going to keep working on this one.
I'm gonna get your input on it. Yeah. I feel like some things are coming to mind for me in that like I mean it could help to just like have objectives, right?
Right.
You can always change your objectives and say, hey, you know what, I don't want to strive for this or that. I gave up on that
Right.
goal because I didn't really want it. But if you have your objectives, I think they could help you set your standards, right? Like if I want to play in Carnegie Hall, okay, there's a certain standard, or let's just make it even clearer because a lot of people could play in Carnegie Hall, different genres and
Sure.
love. But let's say I want to play in the orchestra, at Carnegie Hall or something
Yeah.
class, right? Okay, there's certain standards. You can't miss a note, you
Right.
know. You
Right.
have to you have to practice, you have to be prepared,
Yeah.
and nobody's going to hold your hand, right?
Yeah.
There's all these things, and I feel like in whether you're going to do it through self-compassion or through, you know, guided by the mean insults of somebody else. Either way, the standards are going to be have to set, and you're going to have to do this and this and this, or else you're not going to play at Carnegie Hall. And I
Yeah.
feel if you could think about it more as the results that you want to achieve
Yeah.
and what standards are sort of commensurate with those results, that
Yeah.
seems like a better route, as opposed to like general criticism. This could be better, or you should work hard,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. It always comes back to why. Like, why am I doing this? And what is my idea of success? Like, if like you said, if your idea of success is playing with an orchestra in Carnegie Hall, yeah, you have to strive for perfection. But if my standard is I want to be true to my creativity and the music that I'm writing, and that might involve some errors because mistakes lead me to new discoveries, and I like that as part of my process. Yeah, you might approach it totally differently. I think that's a really good point.
Hmm. Um, Talk a little bit about your sort of longer vision on your career and things like that, right? It seems like you hit we didn't talk about I don't think we talked too much about the catalyst of it, right? The catalyst of the shift. But
Yeah,
clearly
no.
you reached a point where you changed to where you were mainly a musician and now you're like doing coaching and like thinking about the self-compassion thing. What do you see? Well, first of all, you could talk about the catalyst at some point if you like, but also, yeah, where do you see this going? Do you see moving into a different realm, staying deeper in this, things like that? Yeah.
Yeah. I've always struggled with the question of like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10, whatever? Because as we can see, this decade has been, not what we expected. We had a major world disruption. Um, I moved across the country 6 years ago. 7 years ago, I didn't know that was going to happen. So I do like to leave room for whatever life might bring to you and whatever opportunities you maybe could not have expected. But really, I think what's most important to me is just to stay committed to writing music and continuing to learn and become a better player. Like, it's most important to me to explore Brazilian music and jazz. That's where I feel most strongly about learning. I play classical music too. I also love that. But I no longer feel like I want to perfect pieces of music and that's what I want to spend most of my time on. I want to spend more time on exploring what could come about. I just orchestrated my first piece this year, and that was really fun. I would love to do more of that. I would love to branch out and write for more instruments more often. I've written for more than just piano, but I write a lot for myself because it's easy and it's practical, and I like playing my own music. But um, yeah, I don't have a super specific answer, but like I just want to stay committed to learning and creating and make sure that that's a big part of my life. I have a few projects that I'm excited about that I want to keep growing. One is this Women Composers Collective that I started with my friend Lillian Yee here in the Bay Area. And we've also started sort of an offshoot with a few more friends that is about improvising. And it's 5 women so far, maybe 6, and we're all composers who improvise. And so we're putting on a show soon where we play our own music, but we kind of figure out new ways of presenting it. And, there'll be a lot of improvisation and unexpected things happening. And then I also have recently started this group called Som dela, which means her sound in Portuguese. It's 4 women in the band, and we play all music by Brazilian women composers. So that's something I feel really strongly about is representing women's music more. And I want my actions to continue to support that in these things and whatever else may come my way.
Cool. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds. Thanks for sharing all these different things you're into, and that are emerging. Um, we had, by the way, a couple weeks ago, a woman named Molly Gebrian on the program. She just wrote a book about. Are you aware of her?
I have her book like in my cart
Oh,
um
okay.
on a book website right now, and I need to actually buy it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had multiple people tell me you need to read this book. So, okay, has that been, or I guess it did come out. You do this live, so I can listen to that.
I mean, it's out on Facebook. It's not. We haven't released it on the podcast yet, but
Okay,
actually, I think it's queued up to be released maybe on Monday.
cool. I'll
But
look for it.
yeah, I'm thinking about it too. What's coming up for me is the concept of working hard versus um, letting things flow, I suppose, which I feel like is kind of where you gravitated, right? It's like you
Yeah,
were working hard, but it was not working, and so you sort of let things flow.
yeah,
And there's a couple of things that come to mind. For myself, I've realized that there's certain things in my life which have magically happened because I kind of just let things flow and
yes,
go. Some really
yeah,
cool things, all the way to my PhD that I got, in neuroscience. It was just like, wow, I just kind of let things flow and that all sort of came together, right? I mean, I worked really hard as well, but I kind of let go of some preconceived ideas and like tried some things out that I might not have previously. Um, and what I reason I brought up Molly's book is because, she highlights from a scientific perspective, from a research-based perspective, how it's proven that, for example, you need to take breaks, when you practice,
yes,
right?
yes,
You might think from this sort of hard charger sort of perspective. Oh, I'm going to practice for 4 hours straight. And I'm not going to drink water or go to the bathroom or like whatever.
yeah,
And, and people with that, you look at the research as well, you know what, I know that sounds like you're doing a really great job, but really you should kind of like chill out every 20 minutes for about
yes,
minutes and kind of just like look like you're not doing anything.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so I'm sure this overlaps a little bit with your work, and so you'll get a lot about the book. But I'm
yeah.
curious, other things that you've intuitively learned to come across, just about like what it means to work hard, or be dedicated or be committed, versus what works or doesn't, and how to approach that.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about that, probably too many for this time period too, but yeah, that idea of working hard has a lot of baggage with it for me. I grew up with the message that having a good work ethic was, a good value to have, and like I do believe that. But yeah, that plus just it's baked into our culture, right? Like working hard is what makes us feel like good people. That's the message that we get. And the first question you ask someone at a party, what do you do? You ask them about their work, it's everywhere. So like I'm the descendant of farmers. There's something there too that like you had to work hard so you had food. Like that stuff is baked in, even though maybe we don't have the same survival issues that perhaps our ancestors did. And then I think when we get to music school, it's really glorified to have no free time and to compare how many classes you're taking versus your friend. And like, I only got 3 hours of sleep last night. I only got two. And it's like a badge of honor just how much you are mistreating yourself at a certain point. And like at age 20, 18, whatever, you can handle pulling those all-nighters. Now, I think that would destroy me. But um, yeah, so I think working hard, we have to have a nurturing view of what that means, and that working hard has to be balanced with taking care of ourselves. Like you said, not stopping to drink water or go to the bathroom ultimately is not helping your brain work better. So you can't do the work. And it's also a long game, right? Like you can pull an all-nighter and be super tired the next day, but you can't pull an all-nighter 7 nights in a row and be okay. Like in the long run, you have to treat yourself in a way that allows you to keep going and doing what you're doing. in a healthy way. And you have to listen when your body and your brain tell you maybe this isn't going so well. Like I'm feeling a little pain in my arm. Okay, I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to rest it. I'm going to ice it. I'm going to play differently, whatever. You figure out what it is from what the problem suggests. But those breaks are so, so important. And having rest after things that you know are difficult for you. Like if you have a day with a bunch of performances, you might want to try to schedule a day off the next day if you can, as opposed to a day when you're just sitting at your computer all day. You might not need the same amount of rest. So I think working hard has to be balanced with the right type of rest also. I don't know if this fully answers how you asked your question, but there are many thoughts and they can meander all over the place.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, like we were talking about, there's a scientific foundation for these things, which is fascinating. You know, yeah, I'm sure there's something to the kind of, again, I'll just call it like a hard charger attitude
Yeah,
towards. I think that I think part of the appeal of it is that it does work in certain circumstances, right? And
yeah,
you've seen it work, right? There's a reason that you got in some mode of hyper productivity or burnout because there's something about it was working. You're seeing some sort of results or something happen. So sometimes it's hard to get away from that, but I do think ultimately I think that's the thing you brag about, right? To your colleagues. I did the research and
yeah,
it says that if I work more than 50 hours a week, I'll have diminishing returns and might even be less productive. So
yeah,
go for it. Do
yeah.
your minor,
Well, and
uh,
we hear about the great results of the work. We don't hear about the like ulcer that that person has because they're so stressed out. And
right.
we hear about the so-called overnight success. We don't hear about the 10 years leading up to that person put in to try and get to the point where someone knew who they were and they broke through or whatever. So I think that the positive part gets glorified and we don't get the whole picture. And I think that doesn't help us either. Or like the movie montage of the person like doing all the workouts and then suddenly they're really buff and it's like, yeah, they did it. They worked so hard, but like you didn't see all of it. It was the sped up version of it.
Yeah.
Time to really not think about the whole picture, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's something we'll wrap up here in a minute because we're running out of
Sure.
time. But yeah, I think there's just something to be said. I think wrapped into all this, it has to do with your project and the one that I mentioned, having just a daily practice that you just keep up with, and yes, some days it's high energy and some days it's low energy. You just keep going at it. That does feel like it's work, sometimes, but it's not work that you have to beat yourself up about, whether
Yeah.
it went well or not. It's just the fact that you're doing it, right?
Showed up. Yeah. And the consistency doesn't have to be, I am writing an entire symphony. It can be 8 measures, like mine was 8 measures, and it ensured that I showed up every day to do something. Consistency can just mean doing that little thing, and it just keeps accumulating and adding up. And that's great.
Wonderful. All right, well, we're gonna wrap up here in a minute. I'll do the outro, but before we do, anything you want to plug, websites or links or words, final words of wisdom or whatever, before
Yeah.
we roll out.
Yeah. Um, Final words of wisdom, I think just always find a way to stay in touch with your creative joy and curiosity because that's what's going to fuel you through everything else. And it isn't frivolous and it isn't like this is fun so it's not work so I shouldn't do it. Like it's essential and you get to do it and it actually helps your creativity overall. And then as far as websites and links, RebeccaHaas.com. I assume you'll put it in the show notes and you can see how my name is spelled. But that's where you find everything. If you want to keep up with my music, I have an email list for that. And I also have a creative newsletter that I write called Creative Joy Beams that is just kind of different topics on the creative life, the creative process, sharing what I've been doing, sharing lessons, yeah, creative fuel.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much. We have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. We want to thank you very much, Rebecca, for joining us today. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those that joined us today by signing up for the session individually, make your life more convenient. Subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour for just $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session in a member area, as well as automatic registration for each week's new session. You can sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. Don't forget about the podcast, the blog on Substack, and the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and to sign up for the email list on the website. And don't forget about our third Thursday master classes on in-depth topics. All right. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks everyone for showing up. We'll see you all again.